Let's rewind 10 or so years ago. The idea that I would be standing next to two of the hottest hatches ever seen, and one is a Honda Civic and the other a Toyota Corolla, would seem absurd. But this is 2023 and Japan is back on top of the performance car world. We've got a new Z, a new Supra, the GR86 BRZ twins, and the Honda Civic Type R and Toyota GR Corolla. To be honest, both are really, really good, but which is best? Before we find out, please like the video, subscribe to the Car Sales channel, and give us your pick for the winner in the comments below.
In this video, we're going to take a close look at both cars inside and out, see which impresses most behind the wheel, and even see which is quickest on track. But first, some details.
At first glance, it looks like there's quite a big price disparity between these two, but remember, Honda only quotes drive-away pricing these days, so in reality, the difference is about $5,000. Funnily enough, available colours are identical too. Red, white, black and grey, and that's pretty much where options start and finish.
Both cars have 5-year unlimited kilometre warranties, though Toyota covers the driveline for 7, and both have cap price servicing programs. The GR Corolla needs fettling every 6 months or 10,000 Ks and will cost you $1,800 over 3 years or 60,000 kilometres, whereas the Honda is truly an incredible bargain at just $995 for the first 5 years or 50,000 Ks.
Let's quickly run through some of the specs of these two, starting with that one.
The Type R is the bigger car, 200mm longer than the Corolla as well as being wider, though the roofline is a little lower. Despite this, it's the lighter car at 1,429 kilograms and wears 19-inch rims, an inch smaller than its predecessor funnily enough, with 265/30 Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres. Brakes are 350mm discs with 4-piston Brembo calipers at the front and 305mm solid discs and single pistons at the rear, and adaptive dampers are standard. The Corolla is smaller but heavier at 1,470 kilograms. That's the price of all-wheel drive, and has 18-inch wheels with 235/40 Yokohama Advan tyres, so much less contact patch than the Honda. The front brakes are 356mm discs with 4-piston calipers and 297mm discs with 2-piston calipers at the rear, and unlike the Civic, we have a passive suspension setup.
Here we have two cars of very similar power and performance, but they make it in quite different ways. The Honda has the bigger engine, more power and torque, but being front-wheel drive trails the all-wheel drive Corolla to 100 km an hour by a tenth of a second, at least that's the claim. Despite only having 3 cylinders, the Corolla gets pretty close in terms of outputs and has the fuel efficiency advantage as well. Though driven in the intended manner, neither of these cars are going to get anywhere near their claims, and they'll also run out of fuel pretty quickly too, as the Corolla has a 50-litre tank and the Civic just 47. Let's take a look inside. So obviously the Civic Type R is a hell of a lot of money, but it does go some way to justifying that price tag in here, as in general this is a very high quality interior. It might not look too groundbreaking, but it does feel very well put together. All these knobs click nicely, the buttons feel solid, these seats are extremely comfortable, driving position's good. We've got this iconic Type R teardrop gear knob. It's, in general, a very nice hot hatch interior. There are a couple of missing features compared to the Corolla though, namely heated seats and a head-up display. Neither are deal breakers, but both are also very nice to have. The Corolla feels cheaper inside, primarily because a standard Corolla interior doesn't feel as premium as a standard Civic interior, which is reflected in their relevant price tags. It is well equipped though, with the heated seats and steering wheel and head-up display missing in the Civic, and all the important touch points. So wheel, gear shifter and handbrake, manual handbrake too, which is always nice, are wrapped in leather. The seating position is also good, though I do wish the steering wheel would come up a fraction higher, but it's still a big improvement over the GR Yaris.
The Civic has the nicer interior overall, but the Corolla has more features, so call it a draw. And the two are pretty even for infotainment. Screen size similar, responsiveness similar, and both have wireless Apple CarPlay and wired Android Auto. It's a similar story in terms of safety systems. Both cars have all the toys you'd expect in a modern vehicle and both aren't particularly intrusive, though it's worth turning off lane assist if you're on a narrow country road. Digital dashes feature in both cars, and you can choose between a digital representation of analog dials, or if you select Sport in the Corolla or R Plus in the Civic, you get a sportier view with a horizontal rev counter and shift lights.
The first thing to note in the back of the Civic Type R is that it's just a 4-seater. If you missed that on the spec sheet, the fact that there's a pair of cup holders occupying the centre of the rear seat is a pretty strong hint. Your rear passengers won't have any complaints in terms of accommodation. There is a heap of space back here, but it is a pretty basic environment. There are no air vents, no temperature controls, no USB ports, which isn't that unusual for the hot hatch segment, but it is pretty unusual in a car costing more than 70 grand. It's a pretty sparse existence here in the back of the Corolla too. There's an okay amount of space, but no air vents, though you can access a USB-C and 12-volt outlet in the back of the center console. And we've got these cup holders here in the door armrest, as well as a couple in the fold-down center armrest.
If you need boot space, then there is only one suitable car here. Like all of the current gen Corollas, the GR's boot is pretty pathetic at just over 200 litres, basically half what the Honda offers. The Civic Type R puts that extra length to good use with a very handy luggage space.
Okay, enough details. Now I'll get to the good stuff. We'll see which one of these is a standout from behind the wheel. Now, I copped a bit of flack in the GR Corolla launch review for saying I preferred it to the GR Yaris. They're a passionate lot, those GR Yaris owners. They don't like you suggesting that their car is anything other than the best thing since sliced bread. But guess what? I'm doubling down. This is a better car to drive than the GR Yaris. Is it as quick? Probably not, because it's 250 kilograms heavier. That and its larger size also means it's not as agile. So why do I think it's a better car to drive? A big part of it is the seating position. I'm located properly in the car rather than sitting way up high, and that makes a huge difference in how you feel the car behaving. Yes, it's probably slower because it's heavier, but it has more power, more torque, not a higher peak figure, but a wider spread and shorter gearing, so the difference probably isn't as much as you might imagine. Certainly, it's difficult to imagine anyone having an issue with how this car goes, given how quick it is. I say it every time I drive one of these cars, but this engine is incredible. 138 kilowatts per litre is obviously ridiculous, but it's so responsive. It revs hard to 7,000 RPM, it sounds interesting, it's thirsty if you drive it hard, but can also do like 6 litres per 100k if you're just cruising. It's remarkable. The gearbox is also very good. Slick shift, well-chosen ratios. There is rev matching if you're lazy, but it doesn't work very well, and it's super easy to heel toe accurately. This drivetrain is covered by a 7-year warranty. The other thing that makes the GR Corolla better to drive is its longer wheelbase and wider tracks. On the one hand, the smaller Yaris is more agile, and that pays dividends on a certain type of road, and that's why it's the homologation car for the rally cars. But the GR Corolla is a little bit more stable, it's a bit more progressive in its behaviour, and subsequently, you can drive the absolute wheels off this thing with utter confidence. The steering is a little slow off centre initially, but you quickly adapt. The brakes are awesome, the front end is strong, and as soon as you get to the apex, you can get hard back on the power, because enough of it is sent to the rear, the car continues to rotate and fire itself out of a corner. People often ask about the adjustable all-wheel drive system, but in my experience, it's not something you really feel the difference in unless the car's already broken traction and it needs to decide where to send the torque, and that's not really something that happens on the road. I've got it in the 50-50 track setting, which also allows you to back off the ESP into its expert mode for a little bit of extra leeway. Obviously there's great traction, but look, in summary, this thing is just a fantastic road-going rally car. People my age grew up with WRX STIs and Lancer Evos, I think we all thought that that kind of car had basically disappeared forever. The GR Corolla proves that that is definitely not the case. Yeah, it's a bit firm day to day, but not too bad, especially given the control it gives you when driven hard. So we like the Toyota very, very much, but what about the Honda? This new Civic Type R has a huge task on its hands. Not only does it have to be better than the GR Corolla, but it has to be better than its predecessor. Now obviously that's the case with every new car, but its predecessor happens to be the best hot hatch I've ever driven. Okay, it looked a bit weird and the interior wasn't great, but it was absolutely outstanding to drive. Therefore, this new car has very big shoes to fill, and in many respects, it's a logical evolution of that predecessor. But it does feel a bit firmer. The old car had a magical ride quality, and maybe I'm remembering it to be better than it was, but this new car does feel more focused. Don't get me wrong, in comfort, it's still very, very good, but I'm tending to leave it in comfort, even on twisty roads, just to keep some compliance in the car. Still, one of the benefits of this new model is the ability to mix and match settings in an individual mode, so you can then tailor the car to your preferences. For sporting driving, I've got the engine in R+, I've got the steering in comfort because I don't see the point in adding extra effort for no benefit, and as mentioned, suspension in comfort, though on smoother roads, I've knocked it up to sport. The steering is better than the Corollas. In comfort, the weighting is, well, perfect, and it is much more responsive. The instant you turn the wheel, you get a response, and crucially, exactly the response you were expecting. It's not too fast, it's just spot on. The Civic is also unbelievably fast. Super responsive, huge torque spread, nice short gear ratios. This all makes it faster than the Corolla once rolling, but the engine doesn't have the same character. You're actually better off changing up slightly early and using the torque, because there's no real point extending it to redline. There's no surge of power, and the noise certainly isn't anything special. It's a very effective engine, but not the highlight the GR Corolla's 3-cylinder is. The gearbox is brilliant though. Shorter throw than the Toyota, super light and accurate shift, and the rev match system actually works very well. Initially I looked and figured you just couldn't turn it off, but it turns out you can. It's just buried in multiple sub-menus. Please Honda, next time, one button next to the shifter. I know it works very well, but I'd rather stuff it up myself than have the computer do it for me. Except you won't stuff it up, because this gearbox makes shifting an absolute breeze. Now, if you're one of those people that don't like front-wheel drive cars, then the Civic Type R will completely change your mind. In fact, it won't just change your mind, it'll blow your mind. One caveat to that though is that unlike the all-wheel drive Corolla, the Civic does really need dry roads to give its absolute best. It's still extremely effective in the wet thanks to huge grip levels, great brakes, the steering, etc. But with this amount of power going through just the front wheels, you're dealing with wheel spin all the way through the first 3 gears, and then even if it does hook up, if it hits something it doesn't like, it'll then flare again and pull the nose this way and that. In the dry, it's a totally different ballgame. This car is absurd. It is so fast. On a twisting road like this, it's got to be one of the fastest things on sale, period. It's not just the insane grip and the mega brakes and the razor sharp steering. The Honda feels so light. There's a complete lack of inertia in everything it does, and that means you always feel in control. Yeah, there's still some traction issues out of slow corners, and there is some torque steer too, but it's a 235 kilowatt front driver. What do you expect? In fact, the Civic Type R is so ridiculously capable that it really needs a track to show what it can do. So let's see which one of these two is quickest, shall we?
Here we are at Sandown Raceway, and we've got one flying lap in each car. First up, the Toyota GR Corolla. It sets a lap time of 1 minute 25.6 seconds. Now for the Honda. The Honda actually feels less comfortable than the Corolla, but it takes the honours with a 1 minute 24.4 second lap, 1.2 seconds quicker than the Toyota. So the Honda Civic Type R takes the lap time honours, but dare I suggest that if we tackled a rally stage, the positions would be reversed and by a bigger margin. Which brings me to the conclusion and the verdict.
I've tried really hard to avoid a split decision on this one, but it's probably what it should be, as both these cars are absolutely fantastic. The Civic is quicker, more practical and feels a bit higher quality. The Corolla is more fun, better equipped and a little bit cheaper. Really, it comes down to that track versus rally thing I just mentioned. If you're a circuit type of driver that values accuracy and precision, get the Civic. If you're a rally fan that likes to slide and throw the car around, then get the Corolla. Personally, I'd take the Corolla, but it's the Civic that wins here, and for one reason. I have driven an all-wheel drive hot hatch that's as good as the Corolla, and that's the Ford Focus RS. But I'm pretty certain that there's never been a front-wheel drive hot hatch that could match the new Civic Type R. Thanks for watching.